So what about digital board games? Digital implementations? Can I say digital board game? What I mean by that is not app-driven games, not where we have a game where there's physical components, but the rules, the AI of the game, dice and cards have been replaced by, or a scenario book has been replaced by a digital companion. I'm talking about a direct port, one-to-one, tabletop to digital. And I think what kind of pushed in this direction was I was exploring some D&D stuff, thinking about some D&D adventures I want to run, some games I'm playing in. And it's interesting how tabletop D&D, I believe, has been altered permanently in a very good way. Traditional tabletop D&D, getting together with your friends, rolling some dice, having some fun, that has changed where now virtual is here to stay. And by virtual, that could mean using like a Roll D20 tool set, D&D Beyond tool set, Zoom tool set, a lot of different combinations, a lot of different options. Not that it wasn't a viable way to play D&D as the technology of the past couple of years has evolved out, but changes in the hobby and, of course, changes in the marketing and the way they want to exploit and grab more cash, virtual is here to stay. So this idea of a board game implementation, is it natural to roll out to a digital implementation? And again, a one-to-one port. Now, from that perspective, on my phone, in my pocket, I've got Talisman. I'll admit, I've got Settlers. I've got a couple of other board game implementations, one-to-one. Axis and Allies, a little bit too small. We're going to explore that. But part of it is, hey, this is pretty cool. A board game that I enjoy, a board game experience I can literally play in my pocket at different points. I see digital implementations as a supplement in two ways. Now, I say a supplement. One of the reasons why I'm playing a physical board game, I should probably say analog versus digital. An analog board game is, first of all, the social interaction, right? Sitting down with my friends, rolling some dice, flipping some cards, sharing that moment of whatever the game is going to be, the narrative. If I'm not able to do that with some friends, because certainly I play solo a lot, then it's sitting down with myself and immersing myself in the world, making those decisions. It is a physical interaction. I was recently playing Of Dreams and Shadows, which is an RPG type board game. The artwork is, in my opinion, fantastic. Some of the best artwork in terms of tiles and cards and feel of many board games out there. I like to pause for a moment and just like look at the counters on the board, look at the standees, look at the monsters, look at the characters, and kind of make that decision, step back for a moment, be like, wow, look at what is unfolding here, right? There is a physical interaction of the game that does not exist in digital. Second is the dice. Playing Pathfinder, the adventure card game, another game that I really, really enjoy, making my way through the scenarios, building my dice pools. Okay, I've got to make this, or I'm exploring a location. I draw an item, right? Draw a magic item. I want to acquire this item. Well, am I at the end of the game or am I at the beginning of the adventure? If I'm at the beginning of the adventure, do I want to stack the deck with some boons and some other abilities and burn some items, or burn an ally that's going to add to my dice pool to acquire this? And I have to make that decision. Like, do I go all in and acquire the item, which I can keep even if I fail the mission, the quest, doing a little bit of a grind? Or do I play the averages where it's like, okay, I could probably get it if I do this? I like thinking about that, building the dice pool, rolling the dice, and seeing it unfold on the table. There is that interaction. So for me, board games are about the strategy, about the narrative, but they're also about that interaction. I don't get that interaction on digital. So one of the things I'm looking at for digital interaction, I see it in two ways. First, I want it to be a one-to-one port. I want it to look exactly like the board game. Can have a little bit of flash, a little bit of sound effects, a little bit of dice explosion on there, but it should look like the tabletop. So I have that direct crossover one-to-one. Second to that is to be able to play it to explore something. And here's what I mean by explore something. Talisman. I love Talisman. Nothing beats the Talisman experience of all the expansions and playing with a bunch of friends. But playing Talisman competitively, which I do with one group, I want to try out different strategies. I want to try out different things. Back in the day, before we had Talisman Digital, I would set up Talisman and I would run 5 or 6 or 7 characters through the game, explore different things, explore different interactions. Board gaming is a big deal. It's a real deal, yo. So I'm taking this strategy seriously and I want to crush things. Partially because, and I'm not naming any names, I love you guys. Some of the guys I play Talisman with, it's cutthroat, right? It's like, hey, here we go. So this is the real deal. If I lose, I'm going to hear all about it. I got to hear about it for weeks, maybe even months till we play again. It's playing for keeps. So to have that trainer in my pocket and to be able to explore different things, different strategies, that's kind of cool, right? That's one of the ways that I see it. For certain board games, Axis and Allies, you want to grind it out on the app. I would love. Can we get Conquest of the Empire? I love Conquest of the Empire. I would trade much to acquire and to be able to play that perspective, but to be able to grind that out and learn. That's the first way I see a digital implementation. The second way, of course, might be those times where you say, hey, I'd like to play the game, but I don't have the physical or I can't set up the physical yet. Exploring it from that perspective would be the second way. And of course, the third way for some of us, sometimes it's a convenient way to play the game. Pathfinder the Adventure card game is digital. Pathfinder the Adventure card game, Rise of the Rune Lords, one of my favorite games. Play it all the time with a group, solo. But it takes a while to set up. You've got to build the decks to explore. You've got the different missions. It does shine as a campaign, so you want to play through it. It kind of would be nice. It is nice to have the app that manages that, to have the digital implementation that manages that cycles all that. I can play more of it with that. Does it replace? No, but it complements. But it's interesting to see as we see these digital implementations, and this is what I wonder at some point. This is what I wonder. Are you going to start to see more and more, would it be profitable, I should say, duality, tongue twister, duality release. If I'm going to release a board game, physical, do I also release an implementation? I'm also making my way through Seventh Continent. That'd be kind of cool to have a one-on-one port physical app. That would be kind of neat. Zombicide, Black Plague, playing that. I mean, we've got modern. You got Zombicide Tactics. It's not really, but that would be kind of cool to have that. Would you see this idea if you're releasing a physical board game to also release the app and build on that? Would there be a market? Would that enhance a market? So if I just jump into the app, I say, hey, this is pretty cool. I'll buy the board game. If I'm playing the board game, would you say, hey, this is pretty cool. I'll jump into the app. I don't know 100% for that, but I wonder if we're going to see more of that analog versus digital.